Hello everyone. So today we learn NCERT first chapter in biology, that is life processes. You all have seen so many things which are present around us. So the question is, how do we tell the difference between what is alive and what is not alive? Let us see some picture. So in this picture, as you can see that the dog is running and the cow is chewing curd and the man is shouting. Now are they alive or dead? We can say that all these three organisms are alive, right? Now observe other picture. In this picture, the dog was asleep, the cow was also asleep, and the man was also asleep. Now are they dead? No, they are also alive. And how we can say that they are alive? Because we observe a feature called as breathing. That means all these three organisms are showing which feature? Breathing feature. So for that reason, we can say that these organisms are alive. But what about plants? In plants, we can say that all these plants are alive because we observe the color of the plant. That is, which color? Green color of the plant. So if the plant looks green, we say that the plants are alive. But there is one more condition, that some plants are non-green. Now, since they are not have any green color, can we say that they are dead? No. Still, all these plants are also living. But how we can say that they are living? That is by observing their which feature? Growth. So whenever the plant grows, we say that the plant is living, otherwise the plant is dead. That means in all these situations, we are observing some changes to say the thing is alive or not alive. Which feature? That feature is movement, right? But here, can you see the growth of the plant? No, it grows slowly. And can we clearly observe the breathing of the organism? No, but they are breathing. So for that reason, we can say that all these movements as which kind of movement? They are all invisible movements. So what do you mean by invisible? That means which is not visible to our naked eye. That means we cannot see all these movements through our naked eyes. For that reason, all these movements are invisible movements. But can you use these kind of invisible movements to define that organism as living and non-living? So for some kind, we cannot say that directly. We can use this invisible movements to define an organism is alive clearly. So it is not enough. So in all these examples, we have seen that these invisible movements are not enough to define the organism is alive or not. We will not use this feature. But again the question is this invisible movement is important, right? So we have to check that one. The question is this invisible molecular movement necessary for life? If you ask a biologist, which kind of biologist? Professional biologists, they will say that this invisible molecular movement, they are necessary. Why they are necessary? Because for survival of any organism, this molecular movement is important, right? But when you look at this organism, for example, nowadays you are seeing that a disease called, that is which one? Corona. So this corona, it occurs by an organism that is called as virus, right? Now these biologists, they have one controversy, that are these viruses living thing or non-living thing? Because when these viruses does not infect any host, they remains as a dead particle. But as and when these viruses infect the host, then they becomes alive. So for that reason, still these viruses are under controversy among the professional biologists. That means all these examples shows that these invisible molecular movements are very important. Now, why are molecular movements are needed for life? Is it very important? Yes. How? So when you observe this picture, you can see that here we have an organism. So all these organisms, they have a well organized structure. That means this organism, it is made up of organ system, and this organ system is made up of organ, and these organs comprises of tissue. Then all tissues are made up of cell, and this cell contains the organelles, and these organelles are made up of macromolecules, and these macromolecules are made up of smallest molecules, and these molecules are made up of atom. That means every organism, they have an well organized structure, right? So due to the action of our environment, sometimes this organized structure of the organism, it may break down. So if this organized structure breaks down, this organism, it may not survive. So for that reason, every organism, they must keep repairing and maintain their structure by the movements of molecule. Reason is all these organisms are made up of molecules. For the repairing and maintenance of the body, they need molecules, and for that reason, these molecular movements are needed for life, for their maintenance. Then there are some processes which help the organism to maintain. So these processes are called as life processes. Now we will study all these life processes one by one. Now, what are life processes? So just now we are saying that for the repairing and maintenance of the body, we need some processes, right? So all these processes must maintain the organism, even though they are not doing any particular. That means, for example, if you are sitting in a class, or if you are asleep, that means if you are sleeping, all these maintenance processes must go on in your body. So these processes that maintains the structural organization. So these are called as life processes. Now, what are these life processes and why they are important? So we have to study all these life processes one by one. For example, just now we said for the which purpose? Repairing purpose, and for the maintaining purpose, what we need? We need some processes, but while doing all these processes, our body or any organism body, they need energy to maintain the processes. Then from where we do get the energy? That is, our body, it gets the energy from outside. So how? In the form of food, because the food is the energy source for our body, right? Then, so we know that whenever we eat the food, so this food enters into our body and it undergoes digestion processes. After digestion, we utilize this food to get energy and also for growth of the body and also to maintain our health, right? So the process which we intake the food and how we utilize it. So these processes are called as nutrition. So in the nutrition process, we will discuss that how we intake food and how this food is utilized in our body. But we know that all the organisms are made up of carbon. That means most of the organisms, they are all which based? They are all carbon based. So for that reason, the food which we intake, they are also which based? They are also carbon based. So as you have studied in your 8th standard that the different kind of nutrients, that is carbohydrates, proteins or vitamins, all these three nutrients, they are all made up of carbon as the basic source. For that reason, every nutrient or most of the organism, they are all which based? Carbon based. Then now we have this carbon food to get energy, right? And then depending on the complexity of these food resources, the organism, they use different kind of nutritional processes. So now we have nutrition in our body. How we take the food? That is in different form, as you can see in this picture. So we will eat some vegetables or any cereals or millets. Then after taking all these nutrients into our body, what it has to do? So our body, it must digest it, right? That means every organism is quite varied. So depending on their requirement, they has to break down the food to get energy. Then for this breaking and making or breakdown of the food and build up of the food in our body, it must undergo some processes. That means it undergoes some kind of reactions. Then what are these reactions? So you have studied in chemistry first chapter, that is oxidation and one more, reduction. So what is oxidation? So this is called addition of oxygen, and what do you mean by reduction? Removal of oxygen. So our body or any other organism body utilizes this oxidation and reduction reaction for the breakdown of the food to release energy. But here, since we are saying that this oxidation is the process of addition of oxygen, that means to release energy, most of the organisms, they need the gas called as oxygen. Then how do we get this oxygen? That means by the process called as breathing. So when we breathe, as you can see in the picture, when we breathe in, our body inhale the oxygen which enters into the lung. So in the lung, this oxygen is exchanged with carbon dioxide, and when we breathe out the carbon dioxide, it comes out of the body. But here, so this oxygen is utilized for breaking of the food to release energy. So this process is called as what we call as respiration. So the second life process is respiration. So now we have food to give energy, and by the process of respiration we have oxygen to release the energy by breaking the food. But when you look at this picture, that is an unicellular organism, right? So in this unicellular organism, here, since the body is made up of only one cell, the whole body of this organism is in direct contact with the environment. So since the body is in direct contact with the environment, these kind of organisms, they do not need any specialized tissue or any specialized organ either to intake the food or to intake or to excrete any waste in the body. For example, as you can see in the picture, this organism is taking the food from the external environment directly, and also it is getting the oxygen directly from the environment and also releasing carbon dioxide. So by the process called as diffusion. So these kind of organisms directly they will use the simple process called as diffusion either to intake or to excrete the waste. So for example, you can see in the picture, so how it is taking this. So this process is called as diffusion. Now we will recall the definition of diffusion. So what is diffusion? So diffusion is the process of movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration, right? So where is the food? So food is present in the external media. So it is not present in the inside the body of the organism. So it directly comes into the body of this amoeba by the process called as diffusion, like the oxygen or any other gases. But what about the multicellular organism which are made up of many cells? Here, as you can see in the picture, the body of this human is made up of many cells or it contains many tissues. In this kind of organism, the simple process that is called diffusion is not enough to meet the demands of this organism. For example, directly from the atmosphere they cannot absorb the oxygen, or directly they cannot intake the food into their body by the process called diffusion, right? So for this reason, this kind of multicellular organism, so these organisms they have specialized tissues or specialized organs which perform their function. So as we have known that getting the food through the mouth and enters into esophagus, stomach, intestine, etc. So for this it has a particular function, that is digestive system, and then to get the oxygen, this multicellular organism they have a system that is called respiratory system. That means it takes the food to the mouth and the food is digested completely in the intestine, and this intestine absorbs the food, and then oxygen is intake through the nose, it enters into lungs. But here we have one more question, that is intestine gets the food, the lungs it gets the oxygen, but for the maintenance function every cell in the body they need this oxygen and food. Then how do this oxygen and food reaches the all cells which is present in the body? So it creates a need for the system. That system is called system transport system. So the third major life process is transport system. So we will study the transport system in multicellular organisms in the next topics. Right. Now what we have studied? We have studied nutrition, that is intake of the food and releasing it, and we have studied respiration, that is intaking of the oxygen to break down the food and to release energy. And then since the oxygen is received in one part of the body and the food is received in one part of the body, they must be transported to every cell in the body. For that reason we have one more system, that is transport system. So then after all this, that means respiration process, after breaking our body it produces waste. So after respiration what it will do is they produces what? They produces byproducts. So all these byproducts are waste, and then not only waste, sometimes they may become dangerous to the body, that means they may kill the organism. So for that reason what we have to do, we have to remove these waste. Then to eliminate these waste from the body we have a system that is called excretory system, and this process is called as excretion. So this excretion is the fourth life process which we have to study in this chapter, right? And then how many processes we have recalled? Total 4. One is nutrition, second one respiration, third one transportation, and fourth one is excretion. And when we look at the picture, this unicellular organism here, since they are made up of only one cell and the body is in direct contact with the environment, so directly they are releasing all the waste into atmosphere or its external surrounding by the simple process called as diffusion. But when it comes to the multicellular organisms, they all must have a specialized tissue or specialized organ for every process. And here the digestive system, it is responsible for taking food in and digest it, and the organism also have excretory system which is responsible for removing waste from the body, right? So these are the 4 life processes which you have to study in this chapter. So in the next topic we are going to study the major types. That is first one, nutrition. So before that we have some questions. If you understood this topic, so you can solve these questions. So you can see the questions here. And in the next topic or in the next video, we will study the part 2 of this chapter, that is nutrition. And if you like this video, so please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get the updates. So thank you.